Hello, this is Chris Cooper, and a big welcome to the Business Elevation Show. It's great to be back with you yet again. If this is the first time you've been to the show, actually, we're just 2 weeks away from 15 years of airing, which I think today is about the 636th or 637th episode. So, and I've got a fantastic guest for you today, and Jennifer Hill. I'm really excited about this conversation today. Wherever you are in the world, I hope you're well. I hope you're keeping cool. It's very hot here in the United Kingdom at the moment. We're getting used to these high temperatures without air conditioning. So if we sound like we're melting a little bit today, then I do apologise for that. So on last week's show, we had a fantastic guest in Judy Robinette, and Judy is one of the most connected people that I know. She's a great friend, and if you're interested in learning about interacting and how to network and connect with other people around the globe, Judy is an absolute master at that. And so do go and have a listen to that interview. She's always a very fascinating draw for people and well worth the time. So if you've not listened to the Business Elevation Show before, what we really care about is bringing to you exceptional people who are doing not only great work, evolving businesses, ideas, concepts, but also people who are really making a difference very positively to the world, because I believe that good matters. And in this world where there's huge amounts of change and a lot of polarization, the world can feel quite dark. So we like to bring to you guests who are bringing lightness into the world and are doing good things. And my guest today in Jennifer is somebody who's doing exactly that. We're going to be talking today, linking on, I think, probably nicely from Judy. We're going to be talking about cracking the code of human connection. Jennifer is somebody with a huge network and has been doing amazing things. Because Jen is somebody who really understands the kind of systems and building organizations and businesses. She's been a keynote speaker and an entrepreneur and a business builder for 20 years. She's built some really successful ventures. She exited her first company in 2018. And today she's the founder of the Jen Hill Tribe, which is a global community which is dedicated to personal growth, conscious leadership, and creating positive impact. She's also an author. She speaks all over the world. You will not believe the amount of traveling she does. She's just been explaining that to me. Absolutely incredible. And she's been on the BBC News, ABC, NBC, Fox, you name it. Jen's been on it. So, Jennifer, lovely to meet you today. I'm very excited about our conversation. Where are you today in the world?
That's a game. Everybody in the tribe plays the game, Where in the World is Jennifer Hill? So much so that my business partner, Dan, built in a map into our ecosystem so people can kind of track where me and other members are in the world. I'm in Lisbon today, home for the next 3 days before I'm on the road for most of the next 6 months.
And what led you to Lisbon? You don't sound like you have a Portuguese accent.
Well, here's the ironic part. On my dad's side, my grandmother is actually Portuguese from the
Ah,
Azores. But what happened was in late 2019, after I sold the company and ran it for a couple of years, I no longer had to run it. And for the first time in my life as an entrepreneur, I was like, freedom! I was like, I'm never going to build another company again. Famous last words, right? And so this happens. And at the time, the company that I'd sold to said, listen, you only have to consult for us 10 hours a week from anywhere around the world, starting basically in 2020. So I'm like, oh my God, what do I want to be when I grow up? What do I want to do? And before COVID happened, I booked a year of travel, booked and paid. I was just going to gallivant around the world, a month in Bali, a month in South Africa, all booked and paid. So I'm about to get on the first leg of the flight on February 24th of 2020, and I'm having dinner with a friend and an old colleague in New York, and she says, hey, Jay Hill, that was my nickname, before or while you're on your world tour, you should go to Portugal. Here's what's really embarrassing. I said, isn't that in South America? She said, no, actually it's right next to Spain, which happens all the time, by the way. I'm not the only one who thought this. And she said, you should really check out Lisbon when you're in Europe. It's magical. I'm like, okay, I don't really know much. So I Google Lisbon while I'm sitting at dinner with her, and it says 70 degrees and sunny on February 25th of 2020. Now, you know London, you live there, Chris. I was slated to go to London the next day. Snow, sleet, below freezing degrees, and I was like, So I literally went online, and I'm known for booking a lot of my points either refundable or on points, booking my flights on points. And so I was like, here's the thing. If I can get a one-way business class ticket to Lisbon tomorrow from New York, I will cancel my London flight and go check out Lisbon. So I'm sitting there with my friend at dinner telling her this, and voila, there was the flight I wanted. Next thing you know, 24 hours later, I was in Lisbon, fell in love with it, and then wound up in Lisbon and thought I was going to continue with my world tour. However, of course, COVID hit, and I was in Paris when that happened. And so I wound up unexpectedly living in London, then Paris, and then moving back to Lisbon. It really stole my heart.
It's a beautiful city. My kids both want to live in Lisbon.
I think everyone
Having
wants to
been
live
there,
in
yeah.
Lisbon. If anybody's been through Lisbon Airport lately, I think I was heading back from Germany 2 weeks ago, and it was just a Tuesday, and there were hundreds of people queuing. You couldn't even get out the front doors because so many people are flocking here.
Yeah, yeah, it's really, really, really popular, isn't it? So tell us a little bit about your story. How come found yourself building businesses?
It's a
What did
funny
I think of?
story. If I look back, this is the part of the story I don't think I normally share, Chris. When I was a little girl, since I was as young as I can remember, I was ideating. I always had ideas. I remember my grandfather, I think, knew somebody at Jack in the Box. I was like, Grandpa, I had the best idea ever. Why don't we take, like, toast, like French toast, and we'll take toast and you just dip it in eggs and just throw it in a toaster, and then you get like these little to go, like, French toast things. And I remember a few years later that actually came out at Jack in the Box. Of course, I didn't do anything with it. I had an idea for a fast food restaurant that was health food based called Go Out on a Limb. It's where the fruit is. I had the whole branding and stuff in my like 10-year-old mind done for this. I didn't start being, well, this was funny. When I was 10, I had a babysitting company. I was literally certified in CPR, had other babysitters that
Oh,
worked for me. So
wow.
I started doing all of that. Then I left college at 16 or left high school at 16 and went straight to college. And I'll always remember I was auditioning for MTV's I Want to Be a VJ too. And this is before I'd really become a true entrepreneur, because nobody even teaches you how to be an entrepreneur, right? It's just kind of something innately you begin to play with as you get older. So I'm 18 years old. I'm auditioning for Who Wants to Be a VJ too. And MTV, the auditions are in Hollywood. Thousands of people are queuing outside in this line to go and apply, right? An audition. And it starts to rain. So I befriend everybody in line around me. I'm like, hold my spot. They're like, okay, what are you doing? I said, I'm going to go to Home Depot. So I ran to the nearest Home Depot in my car, bought as many tarps as I could fit in my trunk, and then went back and sold them for 10 times the amount I paid to everybody
Well
waiting
done.
in
I like
line. So that was it. And then I wound up working for somebody else, and I wound up getting my first real job out of college and was wildly successful, broke every record the company had. And I thought, oh, I'm making them millions of dollars. I should clearly go do this for myself. And I failed, Chris. When I say I failed, it's one thing in theory to open a business and to sell tarps out of the back of your car at an MTV thing. And
Yeah.
it's another thing entirely to try to form a business. I remember my childhood best friend gave me the only business book I've ever read called How to Build a Small Business for Dummies, like one of the yellow pages ones, right? And I completely went from making like high six figures that last year when I was working in corporate for somebody else to making $5,000 the first year I was in business. Epic complete failure. It was the wrong business for me. I tried consulting. I thought if you build it, they will come, and that people
Mm.
will flock to my stages and my rooms and so forth. And I was completely had my head so far up my butt I couldn't see straight, right? So this happens, and then that whole year that I opened my own business, I was very well known already in the industry of legal recruiting, and I was courted for a whole year while I was running my own thing by this other small startup-y staffing firm. And they said, please, 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 come on, we'll make you a partner, pretty please. I was like, okay, sure. So I went to work for them for a few months as a partner, and it just wasn't aligned. And then my boyfriend, or my husband at the time, my ex-husband, saw how successful I was. In 3 months of being back in the industry I just left working for somebody else, I had more clients than I knew what to do with. I was printing money. And my ex-husband's like, honey, why don't you just go do this yourself? And then within a year of doing that, everybody who used to work for me wanted to start to work for me. And unfortunately, I didn't know how to manage myself, let alone other people. So that's why the book I'm writing is called The Recovering Asshole, because I was a bit of a jerk during those years and didn't know how to be respectful to people and was very unkind to myself and others until I hired my first business coach who said, Jen, what if people aren't misbehaving? What if you just looked for the good in them and then they'd be more successful? And a few years after that, we sold the first company.
Wow, wow, wow. So that is the was the focus, was it? Focus on people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
my whole life has been human connections. The way I describe it to people, Chris, I think my moniker now is the fairy godmother of human connection, is what people call me. And it literally, my record is giving somebody 24 referrals in one 30-minute phone call. So I think that's my own record. And how it shows up for me, Chris, is that I see the world almost like a nodal network, or as some people might know, it's called Indra's net. And it's like I see these little sparks of light that are people or resources on the
mm,
network, and I just connect them together. There's a great analogy I use. Did you ever see the movie X-Men with Xavier, like the guy who created X-Men? It's a
yes,
superhero movie.
yes,
So
yes.
X-Men is based on Xavier, who's the founder of X-Men. And in one of the later movies, he has a special helmet he puts on, and he sits in this room and he sees every
Mm.
human being on the planet, and then he can kind of see what they're up to. That's what it's like being inside of my head. It's like I am kind of connected to everybody in the world, and then it's just like bing bing bing. Like somebody yesterday, I had met this woman one time. I met somebody else a few months ago. She wasn't right for our tribe, but I always take copious notes when I meet somebody. And she was referred by another friend. And this lady said, "Oh, I love travel. I love adventure." Well, I was giving a keynote on Necker Island about 5 weeks ago. Met this other woman. She's in Germany. We have a call following up, catching up. And she says, "Yeah, I do these once a year desert retreats for women in Namibia." I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this woman Sigrid would love what you're doing." And
Mm.
I'm like, I met this lady one time. So I connect them. I wake up to a voicemail from this other woman, Sonia, today, who says, "Sigrid already got introduced to me by somebody else because, like, it's just like both of you guys knew that my retreats would be perfect for her." So that's just kind of how my brain works, is that I just tap into the consciousness of everybody and then figure out who's meant to know each other.
Yeah, that's and do you think that is a gift, or is it something you can learn?
I think it's both. In fairness, if you look at my human design, if you're not familiar with human design, anybody can go to freehumandesign.com or genekeys.com as a way that you can kind of see what your gates and your gifts are. I personally am a huge advocate of an app called Align, Align, and it's like Jenna, somebody or other designed it. I use it for myself, clients, random strangers, friends, kids. Like a guy whose podcast I was on actually about a month ago just messaged me this morning. He's like, "That Align thing was amazing. So cool. Thank you." And what I love about Align is it does say what your number one gift is. My number one gift, Chris, according to this in human design, is creating togetherness. So
Mm.
that is my number one gift, and other people might have a logical mind or a unique voice. So any one of us can develop this skill. I think what's helped me to develop it is for the last 15 years, I've had about a 2 hour spiritual practice every morning. And as one of my earliest teachers told me, it's like if you imagine that you have light, you have infinite light, all the wisdom of the universe, and you sit and you meditate. Well, that's one plug into the system. And then I sit and do inner child work, and that's another plug. And then I do breath work, and that's another plug. So it's kind of like having 30 plugs into the infinite light that is the world and the universe. And so I'm able to draw from more resources than probably somebody who just sits and meditates for 10 minutes a day.
Yeah, that's really really fascinating because I resonate with you being a connector as well, but I don't that map and all of those. I kind of see where people have a beautiful energy. I tend to and I tend to go a lot with intuition. It suddenly comes, doesn't it, quite quickly. Need to connect that one with that one, and you don't know why, but it kind of works out. But I haven't almost thought of it as almost like set of stars, and uh, so I'm kind of intrigued myself to go down this journey that you've done to really evolve it even further because it's
It is
yeah
all intuition. In
yeah
fairness to you, it's intuition. And then what I love to do, the part that I think I do that I've never met anybody else who does to this date, I have literally, Chris, asked probably 20,000 people this. One of the things that I find improves, and normally I'm already accurate enough as my intuition is, but just for kicks and giggles, I like to go back and the data side of me and the scientist side of me likes to empirically validate all the connections, right? Is that I use numerology. So anybody can go to numerology.com, tokenrock.com, and put in your birthday. I'm a life path 5. My most compatible numbers are 1, 7, other 5s, 3s, and 4s. And so if you put me in a room with one of those people, whether or not I know them, we will be catnip to each other. We will find each other in the room of thousands of people. And it was so
Hmm.
cute on this note the other day. I will sometimes match people like sevens. I did a 17-part series with Deepak Chopra and Don Hoffman. They're both seven. That is one of my most compatible numbers. The three of us were like three peas in a pod when we were doing this, right? Sevens love other sevens. The only number they love more than my number is each other. And so these two ladies in our tribe the other day, I knew they were both sevens and I thought they could help each other. And they both messaged me, she's the most amazing human in the world. Oh my God, I love her so much. And I told them both, I was like, ladies, you're both sevens. Like, I can predict this with 100% degree accuracy that you guys will absolutely fall deeply in love with each other the minute you meet. So that's the one element that I've never met somebody else that if anybody's willing, I'll check their birthday, I'll check the birthday of their spouse, their ex-spouse, whatever, and I'm constantly refining the data set that I've gathered of over 20,000 people in my mind from the last 20 years.
Amazing. So what is the seven?
So a seven is just a type. Like here, give me your
Type. Yeah,
birthday,
sorry.
Chris, and I'll
Yeah.
do it for everybody. You can go to
Uh,
numerology.com and do this with us. All right. And so what's your birthday, Chris?
and with the full birthday, 21st of June, uh,
Okay, so June
ni-
21st.
yeah, 1968.
All right, let's see here, June 21st, and I'll share something else fun with you. So I use all of these tools now to better understand myself, where before I used to treat us all as the same, now it allows me to speak into the listing. Oh, you're a six. Okay, so here, if any of you are listening or watching this, Chris is a six. What does that mean? Sixes are harmonizers. That's why many of you probably love this show and it's been going for 15 years. Of all the numbers, Chris, your number gets along better with every other number than any number I've met. You're literally called the harmonizer.
Interesting.
When you're in a healthy state, Chris, you are going to lead by nurturing, probably very much like you do in your business and the show. Conversely, when you're out of balance, my mom is this number, my COO of my last company, my CEO of the prior company, like you guys are amazing operationally, like running companies. When you're out of balance, you'll lead by controlling. So every number has a shadow side. My shadow side is like trying to overconsume things. When I'm in balance, I love freedom and adventure. When
Mm.
I'm out of balance, I try to overconsume, overdo it, and just don't want to miss out on anything. Thus, sometimes 50 trips in a year, right? And so it's learning to work with that balance. Now, your number, Chris, if I introduced you to any other six, I would know sixes love other sixes. You guys will immediately be best friends. Similarly, threes. I actually just got the sweetest call from a dear, dear friend of mine, Brandon. I'd introduced him to somebody yesterday or a couple weeks ago, and he got on a call with her. And I wake up this morning to the most effusive, loving voicemail saying, you nailed it. How did you know Elena and I were going to be the best of friends? She's a three, the same number as his wife. Threes and sixes are one of the most compatible number combinations I've ever come across, as well as sixes and nines. So I cross check all of this, and it's just you can predict with almost 100% degree certainty who's going to fall in love, do business, or be friends.
Wow. And that's a line, did you say?
So a line is a human design and gene keys one that tells you what your genius is, how you digest best, your
Okay.
best environment, and your number one gift. That's an app called Align. There's a free version and a paid version. That's a traditional app. Numerology.com is the calculation of your cumulative birthday to understand what your number is. If you want to go deeper, you can go on tokenrock.com and click their numerology calculator. That one gives you way more information than numerology.com.
Right. Right. Amazing. How do you? I'm just sort of already intrigued how you sleep at night because you've got this amazing, wonderful, high speed energy about you, and you do think I know you do things very quickly, and you're making connections, and you're clearly a huge part of intelligence there. How do you how do you calm yourself down?
It's a fair point. There are two things. I'll be very candid with everybody. I take something to help me sleep every night. I try to switch what I take.
Yeah.
I've tried everything under the sun. Valerian root, melatonin, Ambien, X. I'm constantly rotating what I'm doing. I actually have a call with that healer I was mentioning to you on Monday to see if she can cure me because at 4 a.m. this morning, it's most of the time I can fall asleep. Sometimes it might take me an hour or two to fall asleep if I don't take anything. But then what really used to be paralyzing for me when I was building my first company, Chris, is I would wake up between 2 and 4 a.m. and not be able to fall back asleep without taking
Yeah.
something else, right?
Yeah.
So two of my favorite tricks that I use like this morning, it worked to help me fall back asleep at 4 a.m. for another, like say, half hour or an hour. One is called Paradoxical Thinking by Viktor Frankl, who wrote Man's Search for
Mm.
Meaning. Do you know his
Yeah.
work?
Yeah.
So, very famous, beautiful book. I highly
Yeah.
recommend to everyone. In his book, after he survived Auschwitz and being in the middle of Nazi Germany and everything, he winds up creating something called logotherapy, which is his own form of therapy, of psychology and psychiatry. In logotherapy, there's a tenet called paradoxical thinking. So he gives an example in the book of a client of his who is mortified, Chris, because he sweats too much. So he says to the client, the next time that you go out in public, like every time this guy would go out in public, he would just sweat puddles. He said, next time you go out in public, instead of trying not to sweat, I want you to do the opposite. I want you to say to yourself, I hope I sweat so much I have a river running behind me. I hope I sweat so much that somebody has to follow me everywhere I go with a mop and bucket. That man was perfectly cleared, never again sweat in public, and survived the rest of his life. So Viktor Frankl jokingly says in the book, it's my favorite thing for insomniac patients. Now, the first 3 years I was using this, it worked pretty well, although my brain, I think, has caught on to the trick. So
Mm.
normally what I would do if I wake up at 3 a.m. is I would say, and this is funny because I'll get a little sleepy, I hope I never fall asleep again. I hope I stay awake for the next 10 years. I hope I stay awake for the next 5 days. And even just saying that, like I start to get a little drowsy when I say that. So that's one of my little hacks. The other one I do is, do you know Sedona method?
Yes, I do.
Yes, I love Sedona. That's another
Yes.
thing I do. If I can't fall asleep, I'll say, could I simply welcome being awake right now? No. Could I allow being awake right now? No. And normally, like this morning, at around the fifth or sixth time I'd taken myself through it, I must have fallen back asleep because I woke up from a dream.
Yeah, yes, and you can kind of with the Sedona method, you can kind of exhale your stress, can't you, and
Yeah.
feel it leaving you, and then your anxiety. I think I find that quite helpful with it. Oh, that's great, excellent. I will use that the next time I'm awake during 2 and 4. I'm normally about 3:15, 3:30 when I wake, quite often, and have that need to get back to sleep again. Um,
Very frustrating for any of you who have been there as entrepreneurs. You're like, I have a meeting this
yeah,
morning, body, don't betray me.
yeah, and sometimes it's excitement, isn't it, of what's coming up, and other times it's a bit of anxiety of things that you've not dealt with that need to be dealt with, or it can be a range of things. So having
Sometimes for
techniques.
me, it's literally connections, Chris. I will wake up in the middle of the night and I'll literally voice text people or I'll make a mental note to connect to
Take them.
people.
Yeah.
So that's what keeps me up in the middle of the night is introducing people. Like my brain is just constantly, even when I'm sleeping, working on it.
So just give a little sense of the businesses that you have created and
Yeah, so the
we
first one I sold was the legal recruiting company we sold to a big accounting firm
yeah.
in New York. The second one I created was a tech company that we almost sold last year on October 27th. It's called OptiMatch App. That one we were about to sell for 8 figures last October, and my co founder died that night. And that was pretty heartbreaking. And that sent everything sideways, which then led me to what I'm doing now, which is the Gen Hill Tribe. So after I had some choice words, Chris, for God in the universe, whatever you prefer to call it, I was having a screaming fight with, like, what the hell? Hundreds of thousands of dollars, time, money, energy. Julian was one of my dearest friends, 14 years, helped me sell the first company. It was going to be our second company we were going to sell. This all happens, he dies. So after I've kind of gotten my bearings a month or two later, I'm crying, I'm sad, I'm heartbroken. I'm like, what do you want me to do with my life, universe, world, God? I was like, do you want me to take this little Gen Hill Tribe thing that I was given as a gift last year for my birthday and turn that into a paid community? If
Mm.
that's what you wanted me to do, I'll do it. Just give me a sign. Like, please, universe, give me a sign. This is what you want my life's work to be. I said, give me 10 or more paid tribe members. We had like one person. I was toying with the idea of turning this into a paid community. And literally, Chris, 30 people joined that first month.
Well,
30 people joined the month after that. We are now at 430 members on every continent around the world except for Antarctica.
incredible, incredible. And what's the purpose of the Hill Tribe?
It's to connect people. It's to
Yeah,
uplift one another and humanity, and that's it.
yeah,
Just to help one another, help humanity, and do greater good in the world. Our
yeah.
secret name for it is the Love Club, in honor of my sister who had a prophecy several years ago. She was in the middle of like kind of a mental break, and I'm holding her hand at the hospital, and she's like, Jenny, I know there's something wrong with me. I think I'm the second coming of Mother Mary, and I think you're part of a secret group called the Love Club that's here to save humanity.
Well, on that note, I think we're going to. That's a beautiful way to end. I think we're going to go to commercial break, and we'll talk a bit more about connection after the break. We'll talk about AI as well, because that's something you're passionate. But also, there's an importance with AI. We're living in this age of AI and automation and digital communication, where if we're not careful, we could lose authentic human connection, and it's really really important, isn't it? So. And what to do if you're feeling isolated, overwhelmed, or disconnected. So we'll be back again with you in just a couple of minutes. Do join us after the break. And I always say to people, Jen has just shared so many valuable tips and and ideas and thoughts and websites to look at. And so if you're sitting somewhere sort of calmly and quietly listening to this, maybe take out your phone and notes or a piece of paper and just identify 1, 2, 3 things that you could do to help you to crack this code of human connection. We'll be back again with you in just a couple of minutes. Excellent. Hi, this is Chris Cooper. I'm with Jennifer Hill. We're talking about connection. And I should just mention a thank you to my our mutual good friend, Daniel Wood, who of the Swedish Wealth Institute, founded the Swedish Wealth Institute, who's a fantastic guy doing amazing work with. You should check out his work and community. And he introduced the two of us. Felt that we should meet, and I think he was absolutely right. So thank you, Daniel. Jen, I mentioned before the break about AI and automation and digital communication. You've set up a tech firm. What's your perspective on this revolution around tech and AI and connection, which is clearly your very heart?
I remember about 3 years ago, Chris, I was sitting with a venture capitalist who was originally going to invest in us for the tech company. And we were sitting in our house in San Fran. And this is before AI really began to peak as it is now. I don't even know if we've hit the peak. But she said, Jen, do you realize, this woman's a futurist, that the most valuable thing in the world is going to be trust and connection in the next several years? And I'll always remember Nicole mentioning that to me. And then fast forward, ironically, the company that we had the offer to buy our tech company from was an AI company, and we were going to help them to produce AI in a non-anthropomorphic way. My late co-founder Julian had written a beautiful 18-page white paper on this about how do you create AI in a way that doesn't manipulate people, that isn't sycophantic, but still allows for people to get results that they need, because we see people, it's already beginning to happen, falling in love with AI, becoming dependent on AI. So how do we be careful to delineate and not treat AI as a human, and yet still treat it with dignity? And that's it. There's all these multiple things. If you were to look at this as a Venn diagram of what's happening with the world, on the one hand, you don't want to anthropomorphize. We don't want to treat AI as it's human. On the other hand, we don't know what AI is going to become. And so I'm an advocate, and I was teaching classes on ChatGPT when it first came out, of treat AI the way you would treat another person. They've done studies on this of, trying to yell at your chat or yell at your perplexity and you'll get better results. Personally, not a fan and advocate of that. And then the third component is the fear that we're going to become these transhumans, where we're just going to have implants in our brains. We're just going to be these automatrons walking around talking to one another and losing that capacity for human connection. A friend of mine, Greg Braden, do you know his work at all?
No.
Greg is a prolific thought leader. I remember reading one of his books about 6 years ago in Paris. It actually inspired a global meditation we wound up doing with HeartMath and Deepak Chopra and others back in 2020. Greg had written a book called Divine Matrix at the time, and that was the first of his work I read. And a few years later, I wound up becoming friends with him. And fast forward to Greg's latest book, Pure Human. Greg has a theory that we are the last pure humans on the planet that are going to be born without any sort of augmentation. You think of augmentation in terms of like plastic surgery, etc., but the augmentation of the future is the chips in our brains, the faster neural processing and neural networks. And the question is, at what point do we stop being human? So here's where I'll actually tie it back in, Chris, to the work that I did with Deepak and Don Hoffman. You might be able to find the interview somewhere online. So there was an interview we did before, this was probably 2022 or 2023 again, before AI really peaked, where we started to talk about this idea, is AI conscious, and what is conscious? And then at what point do we stop being human? So long before Don Hoffman and I did this 17-part series with Deepak called Conversations at the Intersection of Cutting Edge Science and Spirituality, Don was my professor in college. You cannot make this up.
Really?
This was so bizarre. And it was the one, you know how you're in college and you don't really pay attention? That was the one class that I would show up wrapped with attention in the front row every time. And here I am 25 years later, and I still remember this lecture that Don gave. And Don said, I want you to imagine that you have a person and they lose their leg. They have to have it amputated. You give them a robotic leg. Chris, is that person still human?
Mm.
Are they still
So,
human in your opinion if they
yeah,
have a
yes,
robotic leg? Okay.
yes, yeah.
So great. So now I want you to imagine that unfortunately somebody loses an eyeball. The eyeball has now been poked out, whatever happened, they no longer have an eye. The rest of the brain, everything else is intact, but they have to have maybe some sort of eyeball inserted that is not of human nature. Is that person still human?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Now I want you to imagine that it's not just the eyeball, but actually the occipital lobe, the back functioning part of the brain that allows us to see, has been damaged, and that has to be replaced by something electronic, computer, AI. Is the person still human?
It starts to get interesting, doesn't it? It starts to potentially merge. You know,
The question is, at
yeah.
what point and what makes us human? So now, fast forward 20 plus years later, here I am doing this interview with Deepak and Don about the meaning of the universe, consciousness, and is AI conscious, and will it ever be, right? The question on everybody's mind. So I'm going to go, can I go deep, deep, deep scientific
Please,
with you and your
please,
listeners for a minute? All right,
please
this is
do.
one of my favorite things. Please go check out Don Hoffman's book, The Case Against Reality, Why Evolution Hid the Truth from Our Eyes. He did an amazing interview with Stephen Bartlett on Diary of a CEO, I recommend as well. So fast forward. Don writes this book. He writes this mathematical formula for consciousness, Chris. So, what happened is about 20 plus years ago, do you know what the Planck scale is?
No.
Okay, so up until about the last 20, 30 years, we could measure things, and that was great. But we got to a point, and that's where special relativity came in. You have Einstein, you have special relativity, and so we treated space and time up until about 20, 30 years ago as fundamental building blocks to the universe. You and I, Chris, can agree that you're at whatever time it is, your time and my time, and that's how you and I were able to converge here with our listeners and viewers, right? So up until about 20, 30 years ago, we treated space and time as fundamental. However, once we could no longer measure things below the Planck scale, once you get into the quantum, space and time can no longer be fundamental. However, science has not been able to come up with a theory of everything to account for what is fundamental and the role that space and time play into this. In comes Don Hoffman. So Don writes this mathematical formula for consciousness, and here's how it goes. He says, I want you to imagine that there is consciousness. And what I love about this, Chris, is it accounts for religion, it accounts for science, it accounts for spirituality and everything in between. So he says, I want you to imagine consciousness is fundamental. And in this theory, you have these things called conscious agents. So imagine any of you out there listening, you're a conscious agent, Chris is a conscious agent, I'm a conscious agent. Now here's where it gets juicy, Chris. You and I, and everybody else who's listening, are projected into a theater of space-time, which is not fundamental. It's just a theater. Like you go to the movie, you go to a Broadway show, it's a theater that we're all projected into as conscious agents having the experience 2026, whatever the day is, right? However, there's also conscious agents not projected into the theater of space-time, which explains the people who are deceased, why people still can connect to them, but they're no longer in the temporal space, which also accounts for things like dark matter, things that we can't measure. So mark my words, one day Don will get a Nobel Peace Prize on this. So here's where we go deep down the rabbit hole. You ready for it?
Yep.
What if consciousness is fundamental and everything emerges from consciousness? Imagine the only thing, if consciousness is everything everywhere all at once, it's omniscient, omnipresent, what's the one thing it's not?
My word. What's the one thing it's not? I don't know.
Finite. So let's pretend that
Okay.
consciousness wants to express itself in infinite, finite
Yes.
potentialities as Chris, as Jennifer, as each one of you listening out there.
Yeah.
My sister sent me a beautiful video of something like this on Instagram saying, like, what if this is all a dream? We're all just dreaming, right?
Yeah.
But then let's take it back to AI. So if consciousness is infinitely expressing itself as the finite, then AI by its very nature, and the tree and the desk and the chair you're sitting on and everything else is conscious. So anyways, that's my digression into human future and consciousness and AI.
That's pretty amazing. And this is kind of interesting. It's maybe another rabbit hole, but what happens when we die?
I can go there. If you want to go there, Chris, we can go there.
Yeah. I mean, because that's that consciousness. I certainly believe it goes. It still lives on. It goes somewhere. Maybe becomes part of that universal consciousness, but it's still. The body goes, but I'm not sure that the consciousness goes.
There was a profound book, speaking of great book recommendations, that I would highly recommend. So maybe start with Don Hoffman's The Case Against Wellness, and then jump into, because this one will blow your mind, called Dr. Michael Newton, Journey of Souls. I just finished it about 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of hypnosis and past lives?
Oh yeah, yes. I did it on the even did a little qualification or two in some of that.
Awesome. Yeah. So you're familiar with it. And of course, Brian Weiss's book is a good starting point, Many Lives, Many Masters.
Yeah.
So I had read Brian Weiss's book years ago, changed my life. I had zero fear of death by the time I was done reading that book. Fast forward a few months ago, I get referred Journey of Souls. What Brian Weiss's book is missing is what happens to us in between. To your point, what happens to us when we die?
Yeah.
So Michael Newton interviews thousands of patients who are all different colors, ages, shapes, races, across all different things, who don't know each other. And he talks to them under hypnosis and asks them where they go in between. And he does these case studies. He says, case number 37, you have a woman who has pain in her knees, and we go in, and it explains how we choose to be Chris or to be Jennifer, and that we actually are constantly evolving our own consciousness on this other side. Now, can I go even deeper and tie in some Kabbalistic wisdom to all of this? My favorite way that the Kabbalists explain this, which also, by the way, explains the scientific, the Big Bang, explains a lot of different things, is the Kabbalists say that all there originally was, Chris, was light. All
Mm.
there was light. Imagine there's infinite light, and our job as a vessel was to receive the infinite light. And we received for infinity, right? That's how long we received it for. Then one day we decided, oh, well, I don't want to just receive light. I've been receiving light for billions and billions of years. I want to give light too, right? In that moment, humanity fractured into the billions and billions of sparks of light that we now call humanity's souls, or what scientists might call the Big Bang. However, how do you give someone the opportunity to not only receive light, but to give light? You have to have some sort of contrast, right?
Mm.
So this is my favorite thing I've ever heard from Kabbalah, is that I remember one of my teachers, Moshe, years ago taught this to me. He said, I want you to imagine, we have this big soccer phenomenon, or what you guys call
Yeah.
football, right?
Yeah.
Everybody knew FIFA and follows that. That just happened. So I want you to imagine, Chris, that you have a soccer net and there's no goalie in it. And here's Chris, and you're going to kick a ball into a net all day long with no goalie. Is that a game?
Is it a game? It's not not just a very together game, is it? It's it's
Oh, you're kicking a ball in a net. It's practice, right?
practice. Yes,
It's
yes.
practice. It's not a game until you
No,
put a goalie in the net.
no.
So again, taking it back to religion, science, to psychology, what the Kabbalists say is we each put our own particular goalie in the net. What the psychologists or psychiatrists would call the ego, what religions would call the devil, what Kabbalists or other spiritual wisdom keepers might call the opponent.
Yes.
This is something we put in the net to give us this experience of playing this game of giving and receiving light.
Mm.
If anybody wants to go really deep down this rabbit hole, I've told all my own coaching clients, don't work with me anymore. Go spend $22 a month. I am not affiliated in any way. I don't get a commission for this. It is literally my favorite tool, speaking of AI tools. So David Guillaume is one of the most prolific thought leaders in the world right now. He's like up there with Joe Dispenza and the greatest people, right? He was my personal coach when I went through a divorce, sold my first company, and got diagnosed as being on the spectrum, and radically changed my life. Well, a couple of years ago, he just became like one of the most popular guys in the world. He now has the number one AI coaching tool in the world with all the wisdom that he knows, plus all the Kabbalistic wisdom, and you can call and talk to it. So it's interesting that we're coming back to this given where we started. I think it's healthy to have a sounding board because sometimes that's why people are going to AI. We're afraid to confide in a human. There's such a
Yes.
low
Yes.
trust network that we're in the world right now
Yes.
that people feel more confident in their ability to share their data, share their deepest fears and intimacies and hopes and dreams with an AI. So if you're thinking of doing that, at least use the best one in the world and go to davidguillaume.com. I'm again not affiliated, don't get a commission on this. I would rather have you buy his products than mine because he's made a huge difference in my life and I really want to see people get the wisdom that changed my life.
That's really interesting because what you're saying there is we can build a connection with AI.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
mean, and
so we've
again,
got
I don't think of it as a connection. Like, I know real David, and then I talk to David AI. I don't
mm,
treat David AI as a person. I don't go, hey, David, how's your day going? How's dating life? How's all that? Like, I
yeah.
don't go to David AI and think for that. I go to David AI because I know he has wisdom and it happens to come in his voice back to me that's a way that's relatable, but I don't treat it in an anthropomorphic way as though it is David. In fact, it's funny when his AI started to become so popular, it used to say, hey, Jennifer, it's David. Now it's fascinating. It says, hey, Jennifer, it's David's AI to be
Ah,
sure to create that extra delineation so you don't confuse it.
that's interesting because something like OpenAI, ChatGPT, it's sort of been designed. It has a softness about it, doesn't it? And it can be quite flattering, and you can almost feel like you're developing a relationship with it.
I see that's a funny thing. In chat, I never use the function to talk to it. The only AI I talk to is David Guillaume, because again, I believe in the wisdom of Kabbalah and I've studied it and seen it firsthand. The reason I'm a big advocate of Kabbalah is that you can't win a game you don't have a handbook for, right? Like, I
Yeah.
don't know about you, Chris. I didn't get a book when I was a little girl on how to win at the
Oh,
game of life. There's a book by that name, which is great by Florence, somebody or other. But literally, I was missing that game. You want to win at Monopoly? You need the rules to the game. You want to win at Super Mario Brothers? You need to know to jump and grab the star and the coins and how to beat the bad guy right, right, left, left. I was missing that manual. And that's what led for me to 3 suicidal attempts and 10 years of bulimia and self hatred. And so what I love about this wisdom is it doesn't matter. You could be atheist, you could be Muslim, you could be Christian, whatever. It's how to win at life. And that's my goal. The game I'm playing, Chris, is that every human being on this planet has a deep, meaningful relationship to themselves, others, and purpose, or what I call the golden triangle of connection. And as much as I get to have this, I get to have an amazing network of humans I love around the world. I have a husband I love. I get to spend time with you and other wonderful people and travel the world. But I'm not winning unless we all win. So that's why I share all of these tools. And I know it's a lot, everybody. My coaches and mentors have always told me, Jen, listening to you is like drinking out of a fire hose. I know. You can find all of my 180 tools. By the way, I have 100 plus tools. Everybody's like, where do I get this amazing list of all your tools? It's on my LinkedIn. It's public. I don't ask for your email or anything. Just Google Jennifer Cahill, find my LinkedIn, and go to my featured post. You will literally find a Google sheet there with over 100 of my favorite tools that I've cultivated over the years, because I am committed to you and you and you and Chris and every human on this planet winning at the game of life.
And do you have, say, 5 tools that you particularly love recommending? 4 or
Yes,
5?
yeah, aside from the ones I've already
There's
mentioned.
don't need to be specifically 5, but
All right,
what's
if
the...
there's 5, heart focused breathing by Heart Math is one of my favorites. So,
Yeah.
heart, do you know Heart Math's work?
Yes, a little bit.
Yeah, love Heart Math. Huge advocate of their work. You could do box breathing, you can do many different types. I like heart focused breathing because you can measure it. You can use any wearable device you have, an Oura ring, a Whoop, whatever. And I do this with when I was doing a lot of work with clients for years. You can literally physiologically measure the different levels of coherence you have. So heart focused breathing by Heart Math is one of my favorite ones. The other one that I would mention, this is a fun, simple little one, but it's cute, is called it'sallinthecards.com, or Cards of Your Destiny. These are listed on the little sheet. It tells you your birth card. It tells you what card you are. Like if I were to look up you, for example, you're June 21st. You are a 9 of clubs. No wonder we get along so well, Chris. You and I are soulmates in some way. So wait for this. I'm a 9 of spades. You're a 9 of clubs. That's my platonic soulmate best friend's number as well.
Ah,
Because I'm a 9 and you're a 9, we actually reflect each other in some way,
okay.
which is why
Yeah.
you and I probably felt immediate kinship from the minute we
Yeah.
met. So your 9 of clubs means, here's what it says exactly. You're all about universal wisdom, completion of the past, new beginnings, new possibilities. Your life will always be filled with revelations and new learnings. This path, this card represents the path of creative mental development. Whatever your passion may be, this will be expressed through your creativity. As you're a great thinker, you're asked in life to let go and open yourself up to new ways of doing and seeing things. You're fond of pleasure, sensuous, romantic. You must guard against wasting time with overindulgence and irresponsibility, as that can lead to disappointment. So, anyways, this goes on and on. Well, my whole life I'd suffered a lot, Chris, at my own hand. And I found out about maybe a year or two ago that I was a 9 of spades. My card is the death card. So I am a universal giver. I literally, you and I, Chris, or anybody else out there who's listening, if you go to it'sallinthecards.com and see this, if you're a 9, you have to give and let go and give and let go and give and let go. 9 is the number for completion over and over. And if you resist it, you'll suffer. So my interest is like, how do we use these tools to suffer less? Which leads me to tool 3, which is inner child work. Chris, that is one of the most important things. I was just, a guy was so sweet. He was messaging me. We had a call yesterday. He said, Jen, did you say you spend 2 hours a day holding your little girl? I said, no, 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 just to be clear, I spend 2 hours a day in prayer, meditation, and all of my tools, but I spend about 5 to 10 minutes every day. And it's this simple, Chris. You don't have to be an expert. Of course, you can find meditations on this on Instagram, on TikTok, on YouTube, but this simple, Chris. You just wrap your arms around yourself and hold yourself and
Mm.
tell they, them, he, she, whatever, however you want to identify, you are loved. You are cherished. You are beautiful. You are extraordinary. You are so kind and so generous. And this, Chris, it actually makes me tear up when I do that, because this is why so many people are so unhappy in their marriages and their friendships and their relationships. We go out in the world and we try to take likes. We try to get comments. We try to get approval and validation from everybody else. The secret to being the sexiest, most attractive, most desirable human in the world, love and accept and cherish yourself. In
Yeah.
fact, that platonic soulmate friend I mentioned who has your same card, when I went through divorce about 8 years ago, she said the words to me that changed my life, that led me to finding my now soulmate, is she said, Jen, You deserve to find someone who will cherish you, though first you need to cherish yourself.
Mm.
And so that's my advice to everybody. Go out there before you go on a date, before you go for a job interview. Tell yourself you are loved and cherished and really feel it. And then another tool that I love is Psyche. That's one that I do every single morning. It's this simple, Chris. You cross one hand over the other like this, face your palms together, and pull it up and in, and cross one ankle on top of the other. This is also called brain gym. And you hold it and you can literally rewire your brain. It is so simple and so amazing. And I do it every single day. I've taught people how to do it. I've had friends heal from miraculous diseases. I don't even do any of this professionally. These are just tools I use on myself and with others.
Wow. Yes, this amazing. I think there's a lot of resources and ideas and things like that for people to follow up. But I think that point that you make about really learning to love yourself is so important, isn't it?
That's it.
So
Even if you think this is silly, just go look yourself in the eyes and say, I
yeah,
love you to yourself. And see if you
yeah,
can keep eye contact with yourself in the mirror and see if you can say, I love you to yourself and mean it without
yeah,
crying. I cried for the first 10 years I did that.
yeah. And just we've got just a sort of 2 or 3 minutes till we close now. Um, just tell us a little bit more about the tribe and how it's helping people.
It's just the most heart-led group of amazing humans in the world. So if you want, find me on LinkedIn. We don't allow people into the tribe unless they know me or one of our members. Happy to get to know you. You can please DM me on LinkedIn, and happy to get to know you in between my travels and see if it's a fit and invite you to one of our social hours. But we get together and people can just ask for whatever they want. That's why I'm called the fairy godmother of connection, is that like one guy in our tribe asked for an introduction to Sting. He's like, hey, I'm producing this film called The New Woo. I need a connection to Sting. And like 2 minutes later, one of our tribe is like, oh yeah, I know his brother. Let me introduce you. It's just like, it's like magical
Brilliant.
fairyland where everybody just kind of loves
Yeah.
and helps each other.
Sounds amazing. And people can go to jenhilltribe.com to find out more about that. Do you have a final message you'd like to leave us with today?
I'm going to pull something from a children's book I wrote that will be coming out soon called The Palladian Princess. If you go to The Palladian Princess, Pleiadan, princess.com, you'll be able to be on the short list for when the book comes out. It was already turned into a short film, but I'll leave you a little snippet from The Palladian Princess. Once upon a time, in a faraway land, there lived a princess in a kingdom of shimmering light high among the skies in a place called the Pleiades. In the Pleiades, no one needed to speak out loud. They shared their thoughts through sparkling waves of love, telepathic messages floating with kindness, gently from heart to heart. One day, this princess looked up at her mother and father and said, how can I be a great king or queen like you? How can I bring joy and happiness too? Her parents looked into her eyes and said, my love, one day your time will come. You will journey to a planet, a faraway place not yet born called Earth. When you arrive, you will forget who you are. One day, though, after many sunrises and many moons, you will begin to remember. And the princess blinked. Remember what? That you are made of stars, that you are light, and so is everyone and everything. You will show the children of Earth how to play with space and time and stars and moon and galaxies. You will help them remember the truth, that they are never alone, that they are all sparks of the same bright light, seeking to reunite to shine together again.
Wow, I think after 15 years of this show, that's one of the most beautiful endings I think that we've had. So what a gift, Jennifer. Thank you so much for joining us today. I hope people have got all sorts. We've talked about all sorts. We've talked about connection and lots of ideas and thoughts and tools that you can utilize. And I think maybe go back and listen to this again and give yourself the opportunity to take out some of the key points. Well, of course, we'll put it into a blog and we'll identify some of those key points for you as well, which you can go to chriscooper.co.uk. That should be available next week to access it. And if you love this interview, please do share it with people. Let them know. We do this work, Jen and I. We both do our work because we care. We want to contribute to improving the world and helping it to become a better place for you and your family and your kids and remember that connection with yourself and with others is absolutely paramount. So thanks once again, Jennifer. On next week's show we have Barry Hoffner. Barry's got an amazing story. He's visited every country except one, which is North Korea, and he did that. He started this journey really after selling a very successful business, but losing his wife in tragic circumstances. But what's really interesting in his story is his perceptions of countries and people around the world. You might be surprised to find two of the most favourite places to his surprise that he visited were in Iran and Syria. So we'll find out a little bit more about that next week. We meet Barry Hoffner. Once again to Jen, and thank you so much, Jen. And check out Jen Hill Tribe and some of the resources that have been recommended today. Any questions or comments, you can drop me a note at chris@chriscooper.co.uk. Take care, go out there and have a great week, and utilise the energy from this to ensure that anything in your work is possible. Take it to another level, go and help people, support them, connect, and very importantly, connect with yourself.